Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael and we're going to be getting right back into some more Reddit stories. If you enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Now, without further ado, let's begin. This story was posted by a user named Cold Mountain in the AITAH subreddit. The post is titled, "I left my wife after my stepson falsely accused me of hitting him." A bit of background, I have been married to my wife for 5 years. She has a son and a daughter from her previous marriage, and I have one daughter from my previous marriage. About a month ago, her son accused me of hitting him. I never put my hands on him or anyone. My wife confronted me and I denied it. She didn't believe me. After the argument, I went to cool off and talk to my friend. He was worried, very worried, and said that I should get out of the house with my daughter. He said that I am a man and no one is going to believe me and I could lose my daughter if things escalate. I finally understood the gravity of the situation I am in. After a long walk, I made up my mind. I went back to my house and asked my wife to come talk to me. I said that I never hit him, I don't know why he said it, and I don't want to know anymore. I told her that I am not feeling safe in this house and I don't want to risk my future or my daughter's future. I told her I understand her mama bear mindset, so I won't blame her for not believing me, but the last place I want to be is anywhere near a mama bear. I packed my bags and my daughter's bag and we left for my parents' house. I refused to take her calls and asked her to only contact me through messages. Her messages ranged from blaming me to blaming herself and wanting to talk in person. 3 weeks later, she messaged me and told me that she believes me. When I left, she actually started to question her son's allegations, and obvious inconsistencies began to emerge. She realized that her son was lying. She apologized profusely and begged me to come back. I refused. I told her that I can't risk it anymore. I don't trust her children and I don't trust her to believe me. I can't risk it. She asked me what I want her to do, give up her kids' custody, and I said, honestly, I do love her and I do want to stay with her, but I can't risk it to be with her anymore if her kids are staying with us. I told her I am sorry and I don't expect her to leave her kids, so I think it's best if we move forward with separation. It turns out she is actually considering giving up custody of her kids. Her ex-husband called me and asked me why his ex-wife is talking about giving up custody. I told him the truth and he was very angry with her son, but more angry with my wife. He respected me enough not to push it further when I told him to sort it out with my wife. So we are in the middle of a shitstorm and I am not budging. I can't stay in the same house as her children. I am getting bombarded by phone calls from people blaming me for making my wife abandon her children. But what other choice do I have? I can't risk going back now. Update. After I made the previous post, I decided to file for divorce and told my wife. Literally the next day, my wife told me that she is pregnant. I am going to be honest, I didn't believe her. It was too convenient a time. I took some time to process it and asked her if she would agree to let me accompany her to the doctor's appointment. She agreed. She was 12 weeks pregnant. We had a talk and I told her that we are going to have to do our best to co-parent the baby. She made a promise that she will ensure her son behaves from now on, so I will not have to worry about anything. I told her that I am not risking my future on her word, considering how easily she believed her son over me. I told her that I am not even blaming her. It's not like she was wrong in doing so. So we are definitely getting a divorce. She is scared to go through pregnancy alone, but what other choice do we even have? We are going to have to do our best. Another child will be raised in a broken family. Her relationship with her son has deteriorated. He is currently living with his father and she is refusing to talk to him. I can't find it in myself to judge her. She is going to have to go through pregnancy in her 40s, which is complicated enough in itself. On top of that, she is going to have to navigate her divorce, add her pregnancy hormones to the mix, and it's just easier not to talk to her son, all because she believed her lying son. I did talk to her ex-husband and he and his wife are also struggling. His son is not doing well by his mother, basically ghosting her. I guess the stern talking to that one person recommended in my previous post is not needed anymore. He has gotten a pretty good idea of how much he messed up. I guess we are in a situation where everyone loses. My daughter is the only one who is left relatively unscathed. She is adjusting pretty well to the new apartment. She is getting into a new routine, all thanks to my friend who warned me in time and helped me shield her from the chaos. P.S. People who sent me messages to see how I was doing and for updates, forgive me for not replying. I was very preoccupied with everything going on. I logged onto this account for the first time since I made the earlier post. Jay Shares said, well, that escalated quickly. To this user, InnerTry said, I know a guy who lost everything because his stepdaughter accused him of sexual abuse. Her story quickly fell apart when questioned, and eventually she admitted to making it up as payback for him grounding her and taking away her phone. But the problem was was that she told someone at school who told a teacher who had to immediately contact the authorities. So yeah, it went from 0 to 60 in less than 24 hours. Do These Hide My Thunder said this is happening to a friend. His 12-year-old stepdaughter, who is too young for a diagnosis yet but has displayed many signs of a serious mental illness, has been accusing him of hurting her. It has come out that her biological father has been bribing her to say things to teachers and therapists because he thinks he won't have to pay child support if he gains custody. They have made relentless reports to Child Protective Services even after the case was closed, and it has ripped the family apart. The biological father now keeps trying to tell Child Protective Services that it was all made up because the stepdaughter quite literally broke every single window in the house during an episode. The kid is going through a lot, but is frankly a danger to be around. Munchkins and Dragons said, "She did the right thing by believing her kid, but it takes more work than just believing what they say. You have to take action and advocate for them, because kids don't really have much agency on their own. In order to do that, though, you need facts. If my kid comes to me and says X person hit me, it doesn't matter if that person is an adult or another kid. I'm going to start asking some questions, getting some details, and making a plan for where we go from here. When did this happen? Where did it happen? How many times? What were you or they doing before you were hit? Was it an open hand or a closed hand? Did they say anything before, during, or after? And are there any marks or bruises? I figure out what happened and then react accordingly. We're not going to sweep violence and abuse under the rug, but we're also not going directly to the police if they actually just bumped into each other. Kids are going to say whatever they think will get someone to listen to them. Even kids who are telling the truth might embellish a little bit to make it more serious, so you'll believe them more. It's the adult's job to navigate that and help them learn." This next post was made in the same subreddit by a user named Mental Music. The post is titled AITAH for leaving my wife because of her cheating and insecurities. I made a new account for this, and this is my first time posting, so please be easy on me. I need an outside perspective on this. I left my wife of 7 years a year ago because she believed that I wasn't being reflective and caring about her feelings, and she cheated on me for it. In my past, I did amateur porn, but I left due to how I was treated and how the company treated my co-stars. I did 26 scenes with them, but outside of my work, I wasn't looking for sex or hookups. I wanted to connect with someone. Then I met my ex-wife, let's call her Sarah, at a bar in Cincinnati in 2007, and we hit it off. I told her about my past work, but she seemed fine with it. We were both open with each other, and if I can be frank, she was my dream girl and had everything I was looking for in a partner. I thought our sex life was great. We had sex every day, and she initiated it most of the time. We would go on dates every weekend, and our parents loved each other. My wedding day was the happiest day of my life. But when COVID hit, it changed a lot. She lost her job, but since my new job was mostly remote and I made enough for both of us, we were financially stable. She began to gain a little weight and started to feel insecure about it. I told her bluntly that I love her no matter how much weight she gains, and if anything, there's more of her to love. After the pandemic, she still couldn't find a job, so she started going out with friends more and meeting up with some of her old friends from college. She doesn't drink, so I wasn't worried about her. However, after she came home, she began to ask more questions about my past. How many people did you sleep with? Are you still in contact with them, and how many? I didn't lie, I still had their contact information in my phone, but she knew this. She also knew that one of my best friends was one of my co-stars whom I had slept with in multiple scenes. Let's call her Lisa. Lisa and I left the industry around the same time, and we just stayed friends. We hadn't slept with each other since due to the bad memories we both had of the industry, but Sarah knew this, and I told her that every time I met with Lisa, she could come with me, or if she needed me to stay home, I could. Sometimes she took me up on that offer or told me she wanted to stay home. I didn't fight or fuss, I just agreed with her. But around this time, she didn't want me around any women. I told Lisa and she understood. She thought this would happen at the beginning of our relationship. This went on until 2022 when I grabbed her phone to use it for a second and noticed that she had changed her password. I knew this wasn't good because we never hid anything from each other. I asked her to unlock her phone for me and she said no. I was confused and asked why. She told me, because I can't trust you. I asked why and she said, because I know. Now I was generally confused because I hadn't done anything, so I asked what she meant. She began to yell and berate me, saying that since I did porn all those years ago and had a high body count, I must be cheating. After her yelling, I calmly asked her if she was cheating on me. She told me no and said she changed her password to set boundaries. I suggested that we swap phones and look through them together. She eagerly agreed and we exchanged phones and searched. I found her group chat with her friends where they were convincing her to cheat on me, but she was refusing, stating that she still loved me but felt conflicted. They were asking her about my flaws and what she could change about me. The only things she mentioned were my high sex drive, the size of my penis, and my relationship with Lisa. We had been having sex once a day since we got serious, and again, she initiated it most of the time. The comment about my size was new because I always tried to be careful with her, and she never told me this before. And my relationship with Lisa, I completely understand if she felt uncomfortable about it. Her friends began to twist her words and try to make it seem like I was intentionally hurting her and cheating with Lisa. Once I finished reading and looking at the group chat, I looked up and saw Sarah crying. I didn't yell at her, we talked it out. I asked her about the group chat and she began to tell me that she had always been concerned about me leaving because of my past work and believed that I would cheat due to my relatively high body count and perceived high sex drive. Again, the sex was great and very passionate, but she did it for me, which I told her I appreciated, but she didn't need to have sex for my sake. Also, she told me I was the biggest she had ever had, and at times it did hurt occasionally. I said sorry and promised to work on it. After that, there was tension, but nothing too serious to end the relationship. In December 20th, 2022, past co-stars began to start OnlyFans accounts, and they wished to have me on theirs. Sarah saw these messages and asked about them. I said no to all who had reached out, and I told her that she could reply to any I missed. This went on until the beginning of 2023, and Sarah grew distant because of these messages. I thought I understood how she felt until Lisa, who was at a bar with her friends, saw Sarah kissing a guy and left the bar. She called and showed me the picture she took. In my eyes, the relationship was over. She began to pack her stuff, and as soon as I was about to throw her belongings into the front yard, she called me to pick her up. The guy she was with was married, and his wife found them in their bed and physically confronted Sarah. My natural instincts kicked in, and I rushed across the city to get to her. I pulled up to find her crying on the front doorstep with the man's wife standing behind her. The man's wife pulled me into the house and began to show the security footage of them having sex. Then the realization kicked in, and I remembered that Sarah had cheated on me. Sarah tried to plead her case and make excuses, but I wasn't having it. I told her to find a ride and pick up her belongings from the front yard. I drove home, leaving my ex-wife crying at a random stranger's house. This led to today, with her dragging on the divorce and trying to reconcile. She got her friends and some mutual acquaintances to take her side, stating that my relationship with Lisa drove us apart. My experience in bed drove us apart due to her not having had many partners in the past, and that my size was hurting her, which her friends tried to say was abuse. Her friends tried to file a police case against me, but thankfully the police threw it out. But I started to think if I was in the wrong here. Update. Hello everyone, sorry for the late response. I've been caught up with some things and thank you for the support. I just came on here again to explain in better detail some things and why I made the post. For one, the contacts I had were old. I hadn't been actively texting them, I just never changed my number. The majority had reached out before for small talk, but I never entertained them and kept the conversations short. I know I should have deleted them, but I never got around to it because, again, Sarah and I knew they were texting me and she seemed okay with it. I wish I could show how transparent I was with my things with Sarah before she changed her password and we had that fight. We shared and at times actively used each other's belongings, to the point that we wouldn't buy things for ourselves if the other person couldn't use them. This post all came from a mutual friend between me and Sarah. Let's call him John. John and I were watching the Nuggets game and he began to ask how everything had been. He knows that I have been struggling socially because of the divorce and he tried to tell me about Sarah. Normally I would shut him down, but what he said put things in another perspective, or rather caused me to think more in depth about it. John told me that she is in the wrong, but my past must have been eating her up on the inside. He said, imagine all the men who date or marry former or current porn stars. Imagine the thoughts that must race through their heads when they see their wife life interacting with people from her past. I'm just wondering if I was too open with her. Should I have lied about my past? Today I talked with John and he told me again that Sarah just wants to talk to me. Since the incident, I haven't seen Sarah face to face except for the week after it happened and at the funeral of one of my best friends. After I finished throwing her things into the front yard, I packed some essentials and stayed at one of my best friend's places. I considered him a brother. Let's call him Dave. Dave let me crash at his place for a week, and after the week, I returned to my house. But when I got home, I saw her car in the driveway, and her things were still out in the front yard. I walked into the house, and Sarah ran up to me, trying to act like nothing had happened. I went outside, closed the door, and went to my car to call Dave to come as backup in case she did something drastic. I didn't think she would because she didn't follow me outside, but I wanted to be safe, and I trusted Dave with my life. When he pulled up, I told him to stand behind me, and I opened the door. Sarah was crying her eyes out on the floor. I was going to reach down and talk to her, but Dave grabbed me, stopping me. So I waited for her to stop crying, and she began to explain that I didn't really care for her and that my actions showed it. I asked how, and she stated that if I was a good husband, I would let her cheat and get away with it because I was cheating by having girls text my phone. Dave began to yell and berate her, saying that logic was dumb because I didn't do anything physical or emotional with those girls. But I stopped him and just said, "Get your things and get out of my house." She said no, so I found her things and began to throw them out of the house again. She didn't try to stop me, she just cried silently, watching me do it. Once all her things were out of the house again, she walked out without saying anything. The next time we talked was at Dave's funeral. He passed away 2 months later due to a car accident. Easily the worst day of my life. The big three were me, him, and Lisa. During the funeral, Lisa and I were in the front with the family because we were all close, but Sarah sat behind me. She didn't say anything, she just was there. I began to become irritated, but Lisa beat me to it, confronting Sarah by turning her head around and asking Sarah why she was there. Sarah stated she had the right to be there because she knew Dave too. I told Lisa not to respond because Sarah wasn't being difficult, and I let it go because the funeral was bigger than me and her. After we left the gravesite, Sarah walked up to me and apologized for cheating and wished to get back together. This was the closest I ever got to yelling at her, ever, because she was trying to get me emotionally weak to talk to her. I told her to get out of my face and contact me through lawyers. This leads to today, and I don't know if I should talk to her. I don't love her anymore, but it's hard to explain because I still care for her. I never want to get back with her, but should I hear her out? I know what she did is terrible and can never be forgiven, but I think she is mentally broken, and I truly hate seeing her in that state. As of typing this, I reached out to John, and I'm going to meet Sarah one last time for closure. I'll update this post if anything major happens. Update. I'm glad that I met Sarah because now I have no feelings for this woman at all. You all have been right. John was not an ally or a friend. He had hidden objectives that I wish I had seen sooner. John was close with a friend of Sarah's. Let's call her Katie. This will be important later. To get this started, John set up a dinner between me and Sarah, and I wished for him not to be there. I also told Lisa to be close by or at least be in the area. Lisa agreed and stated that she would be at the restaurant before us and try to keep an eye on us. I arrived with Lisa and I waited for Sarah. When Sarah arrived, I swear she looked 10 times better, even though she had clearly gained weight. It always seems to go to the right places. She noticed and she began to smile and her eyes began to glow. I swear it seemed like we fell in love again. When we walked in and were seated, I saw Lisa seated and a guy was trying to hit on her, but she was on the other side of the restaurant and couldn't see us. Once we were seated, realization hit, so I began to text Lisa and she told me that she was going to use the guy to get closer to us. Sarah and I began small talk while I kept an eye out for Lisa. Once the small talk was over, I gave up scouting for her and asked flat out, "Why did you do it?" Sarah began to say that ever since she reconnected with her old friends, they began to talk about old college stories and discuss their new partners. In college, Sarah was the designated driver in the group since she never drank and wasn't sleeping around or looking for hookups. She was kind of teased about it. They would say she was stuck up and needed to let loose a little bit. And at one of these meetups, they showed pictures of their partners. Sarah, being proud of our relationship and this being the first time her old college friends knew or saw me, began to show me off and rub it in their faces about me. I remember this night because I was at home and she called me asking questions, basically showboating how close we were as a couple. The college friends, out of jealousy, began to look me up and found out that I'm a former porn star. They asked Sarah about it, and Sarah didn't have a problem with my past until they started planting in her mind that I had been cheating and she could never satisfy me, and a whole bunch of nonsense. Sarah began to tear up and started apologizing about the situation. I told her to continue. She goes on saying that one of her friends, Katie, in one of their meetups, started talking about how great sex is with her new man, and everybody else jumped in and started to tell their stories. Sarah tried to sit this conversation out, but was peer pressured into it. She told them the truth about how often we have sex and other aspects of our sex life. Katie then asked how big I am. Sarah didn't say anything, but Katie and others threatened to pull up my old videos. Sarah folded and talked about it and showed a picture of it. Her group of friends couldn't believe it, especially Katie. After that, they started chastising her, saying her man had a fake dick. Sarah said that this didn't bother her because she is used to this type of teasing, similar to what boys do, and she is used to it because of her male family members. After this, her friend convinced her to cheat and basically told her how to get back with me because, in her own words, they're the boy whisperers because they've been with tons of boys back in college. I was shocked when Sarah admitted that she was wrong and should have just talked to me first. She cut out all her friends and now she has new ones. This brought me a sense of closure. As soon as I felt relaxed, Sarah asked me if I had ever cheated and pointed behind me. I looked back and saw Lisa a couple of rows back, still talking to this guy and his friends. I told her no and asked the inverse. She said not since she was caught. I said okay and asked why she was taking so long with the divorce. She told me that she still loves me and hopes to reconnect, and John had told her that this was her best chance. I said no, I'm done. I asked for the check and she just cried. I didn't want to ask any more questions. I got what I needed. I told her that she could leave and I would cover for her. She just got up with tears in her eyes and said, "I hope she's worth it," and walked away. At this point, I didn't care. She walked over to Lisa and called her a homewrecker. Once Sarah left, Lisa walked to my table and sat with me. The guy followed and tried to act tough with his friends. I'm 6'2" and built. I told them off. I filled Lisa in on what Sarah had told me. Lisa kept it real and told me that neither of us can have regular relationships again. Once someone finds out about our past, they're either going to break up or it'll become some weird dynamic between the two built on distrust. I said maybe you are right, and we agreed to hit the bar and see where the night takes us. I agreed and we went to the bar. Once I entered my car to drive off, I got a call from an unknown number. I picked up and this girl immediately started talking dirty to me. I said, "You got the wrong number," and she went on to say my full name. I asked who she was and what she wanted. She said she wanted me and only me. I asked for a name and address to play along, and it was Katie, one of Sarah's college friends. I hung up and immediately called Lisa and told her to go to John's house because I believed there was no way this didn't have his hand in it. I called John and lied to see his reaction, saying Katie had ratted him out. He immediately started to apologize, saying that it was her idea and he just wanted her to quit talking about me because he had feelings for her but had been stuck in the friend zone. So his logic was to get with the girl he wanted by having his friend sleep with her. I told him this and he said, "No, she told me she wanted to talk to you if you didn't want to get back with Sarah." The pure stupidity infuriated me, and I told him he had 10 minutes to be either out of his house or ready to fight. I drove to John's house. Lisa was already outside and calmed me down, getting me to get back in my car. Now, 3 days later, it feels like I've had a boulder lifted off my shoulders. I just hope that now Sarah doesn't drag her feet on the divorce anymore. Thank you to everyone who stuck around. One wheel said, "Wow, talk about insecurity, you're not the asshole." Now, are these the same friends who encouraged her to cheat? If they are, then those are some terrible friends. You did the right thing. Don't let her back into your life. Friends like that may have encouraged her, but she's an adult who made choices. Let her deal with them. Wyatt Terp said, "You handled everything perfectly. You remained blameless the entire time. You were honest. You limited any questionable relationships. And you were honest even about things most people would never mention. You made clear boundaries and stuck by them. I give you a 10 out of 10. It still sucks, but this was entirely brought on by her insecurities and her toxic friends. Try not to have such a big ego next time." Substantial Youth said, "You're not the asshole. Just move on and you can say you tried to be amicable. The fact is that she cheated, nothing else. Your past has nothing to do with her actions, so please keep your head up and do not doubt yourself." Update 2. Hello everyone, sorry for the late response. I've been caught up with some things and thank you for the support. I just came on here again to explain in better detail some things and why I made the post. For one, the contacts I had were old. I hadn't been actively texting them, I just never changed my number. The majority had reached out before for small talk, but I never entertained them and kept the conversations short. I know I should have deleted them, but I never got around to it because, again, Sarah and I knew they were texting me and she seemed okay with it. I wish I could show how transparent I was with my things with Sarah before she changed her password and we had that fight. We shared and at times actively used each other's belongings, to the point that we wouldn't buy things for ourselves if the other person couldn't use them. This post all came from a mutual friend between me and Sarah. Let's call him John. John and I were watching the Nuggets game and he began to ask how everything had been. He knows that I have been struggling socially because of the divorce and he tried to tell me about Sarah. Normally, I would shut him down, but what he said put things in another perspective, or rather, caused me to think more in depth about it. John told me that she is in the wrong, but my past must have been eating her up on the inside. He said, imagine all the men who date or marry former or current porn stars. Imagine the thoughts that must race through their heads when they see their wife interacting with people from her past. I'm just wondering if I was too open with her. Should I have lied about my past? Now, today I talked with John and he told me again that Sarah just wants to talk to me. Since then, I haven't seen Sarah face to face except for the week after I caught her and at the funeral of one of my best friends. After I finished throwing her things into the front yard, I packed some essentials and stayed at one of my best friend's places. I considered him a brother. Let's call him Dave. Dave let me crash at his place for a week, and after the week, I returned to my house. But when I got home, I saw her car in the driveway, and her things were still out in the front yard. I walked into the house, and Sarah ran up to me, trying to act like nothing had happened. I went outside, closed the door, and went to my car to call Dave to come as backup in case she did something drastic. I didn't think she would because she didn't follow me outside, but I wanted to be safe, and I trusted Dave with my life. When he pulled up, I told him to stand behind me, and I opened the door. Sarah was crying her eyes out on the floor. I was going to reach down and talk to her, but Dave grabbed me, stopping me. So I waited for her to stop crying, and she began to explain that I didn't really care for her and that my actions showed it. I asked how, and she stated that if I was a good husband, I would let her cheat and get away with it because I was cheating by having girls text my phone. Dave began to yell and berate her, saying that logic was dumb because I didn't do anything physical or emotional with those girls. But I stopped him and just said, "Get your things and get out of my house." She said no, so I found her things and began to throw them out of the house again. She didn't try to stop me, she just cried silently, watching me do it. Once all her things were out of the house again, she walked out without saying anything. The next time we talked was at Dave's funeral. He passed away 2 months later due to a car accident. Easily the worst day of my life, the big three were me, him, and Lisa. During the funeral, Lisa and I were in the front with the family because we were all close, but Sarah sat behind me. She didn't say anything, she just was there. I began to become irritated, but Lisa beat me to it, confronting Sarah by turning her head around and asking Sarah why she was there. Sarah stated she had the right to be there because she knew Dave too. I told Lisa not to respond because Sarah wasn't being difficult, and I let it go because the funeral was bigger than me and her. After we left the gravesite, Sarah walked up to me and apologized for cheating and wished to get back together. This was the closest I ever got to yelling at her ever because she was trying to get me emotionally weak to talk to her. I told her to get out of my face and contact me through lawyers. This leads to today, and I don't know if I should talk to her. I don't love her anymore, but it's hard to explain because I still care for her. I never want to get back with her, but should I hear her out? I know what she did is terrible and can never be forgiven, but I think she is mentally broken and I truly hate seeing her in that state. As of typing this, I reached out to John and I'm going to meet Sarah one last time for closure. I'll update this post if anything major happens. This third and final post was made in the relationship advice subreddit by a throwaway account about 3 years ago. The post is titled, "My wife returned from a work retreat with a hickey. She swears it's a bug bite, but I'm not convinced. I'm at a loss. I'm in a fight with my wife. We've had fights before, but not this bad. I'm at a loss on how to proceed. For context, we're college sweethearts married for almost 6 years. We have a daughter. Our relationship was never perfect or without challenges. We've faced some family opposition due to cultural differences, but we've made it work. She's my first love and my best friend. My wife works in corporate, and her job has annual work retreats that last for about a week. This year, it was in Vegas. I usually arrange my work schedule and tag along with her, and we make our own trip out of it. We couldn't this year. Our daughter gets major anxiety traveling long distances. We're working on it, but she wasn't budging and we decided to choose our battles. So I stayed behind and held down the fort at home. The change of plans was a bummer because the trip was part of us reconnecting as both a couple and as a family. My wife's work hours have taken a toll and her work-life balance leaves much to be desired. We entertained the idea of her skipping the retreat. Attendance is optional, but it's generally frowned upon if you don't, and my wife is making connections in her field. She grew increasingly weird. We have a system if either of us is away for extended periods. We keep in contact. For the first day or so, she was herself, but she grew distant. I'd even text her about important stuff and be left on read while she claimed she never saw my text. Whenever we talked, she was rushing me or our daughter off the phone. These were all times she wasn't involved in retreat activities. We were supposed to have a mini birthday celebration for our daughter over FaceTime. Our daughter was excited. It was something my wife promised her because the retreat overlapped her actual birthday. But my wife backed out because she had people up to her room after a seminar. It was like she wanted my permission to break her promise to our daughter. I told her I wasn't offering that nor making her keep her word. She said I wasn't being fair and this was a networking opportunity. They were business oriented and wouldn't understand her stepping away for family time. I said her decision is her decision, but she'd have to explain it to our daughter. She promised her that she'd rain check the following day. Our daughter didn't understand and cried. My wife ended up hanging up and leaving me to comfort our daughter alone. That whole incident rubbed me the wrong way. I didn't like it. She didn't keep her word for the rain check either. She was documenting the retreat on social media. One coworker was almost in every picture and video attached to her hip. In one picture, he had his arm too comfortably around her, in my opinion. He's a recent hire in my wife's department. She was asked to oversee him. I don't like the guy, he doesn't know boundaries. Once, in response to a work assignment, he texted my wife that she's exactly the kind of woman he needs to keep him in check. My wife had brushed it off. She feels bad for him because he's not fitting in. She took him under her wing during his first retreat with the team. If I'd questioned her, she'd say she was tired or networking. There was always something, but I've seen her at these retreats. This wasn't like her. She was just off. The day before her return home, she complained about a bruise on her neck. She stressed it was a bug bite. I didn't actually see the bruise until she came home. I instantly thought it was a full-on hickey. She kind of brushed it off after making a big deal of it over the phone. I didn't push because our daughter was present, but when I was able to confront her, she clung to her bug bite claim. When I kept pushing, she asked what I was trying to imply. I outright said I believed she had a hickey, and I didn't believe she was being honest with me. We had it out then. She was offended and pissed at the accusation. Infidelity has always been a sore topic. Her family has a history of infidelity. So we had a pretty bad fight, and she accused me of looking to pick a fight due to the incident with our daughter's birthday. I told her it had nothing to do with that and everything to do with the hickey on her neck. The fight ended in an impasse. We're still not recovered. She swears it's a bug bite, but I'm not convinced. I've always trusted my wife. I never doubted her, but this bruise doesn't look like a bug bite. It looks like a hickey. I only feel more strongly when I consider how distant and weird she was during the Vegas retreat. Now she's wearing turtlenecks ever since, and we're caught between arguing and her showering our daughter and me with affection. Communication usually prevails for us, but not now. I think my accusation pushed us to a new level of argument. I'm at a loss here. I really need outside perspectives. How do I move forward? Angry Little Monster said, "Something fishy is going on here for sure. I couldn't imagine bailing on my daughter's birthday for networking, and then there's the hickey and the preemptive explanation that it wasn't one. I don't know. Something doesn't add up here." Hyperfix Mum said, "I would never have people in my room to hang out or network. At my level, it brings too much risk. Someone not invited, or there could claim future favoritism or preferential treatment of those who were, or make false allegations, etc. It just doesn't ever make sense to have people in your hotel suite on a work trip. This is a boundary I think she crossed both professionally and in her marriage. I would never go on an optional work trip that overlaps with my child's birthday. Nothing will ever shift the work-life balance to make that decision. If anyone at work gave me crap, I'd be talking about setting good examples and improving the culture while looking for a new job elsewhere. I think every person, even single, would understand her stepping away for family time. That's a BS reason. She needs to be honest with herself that she's not that important to her workmates, and she was selfish and made a bad decision that her daughter will remember. It would have taken at most 30 minutes. If she had time to document her trip on social media, she had time for her daughter. We don't make promises in our household. We just say our yes is our yes and our no is no. We don't have to make promises on top of that. It's important to our family values that we model behavior for our kids of being people who honor their words. She is overstepping boundaries by letting a younger male hire whom she manages physically touch her, point blank, especially if he has messaged her outside of work hours with things that are borderline. Even more so, she should have been setting boundaries so far back that this guy couldn't even see the red line. It isn't unbelievable or totally out of line for you to question the mark when she isn't upholding boundaries that would keep your trust and marriage safe, especially when her communication changed and she became distant. Tell her you aren't stupid and you aren't insecure, that there are too many things piecing together. For me, I would continue to confront. I would look her plainly in the eye and ask, was it worth it? Say nothing else and see her reaction. I would need to see her email HR documenting that on the trip, her subordinate put his arm around her and has messaged her things that are borderline suggestive, that she explains she just wants to document this as his manager and have a paper trail if it continues to escalate. If she is unwilling to send this to HR, I would move towards separation. Football 10 fan said, I'm not saying it's impossible, but I've never gotten a bug bite that looked like a hickey. Did she show you her phone or provide any proof that could support her innocence, or did she just dismiss you? The extra affection is a common move from guilt-ridden cheaters. Even if we stretch our imagination and believe it is a big bite, she wasn't acting trustworthy, nor was she a good mother while she was in Vegas, and she needs to address and correct that. Update. I wanted to give an update and thank everyone who reached out. The outside perspectives helped. Things are a roller coaster and I'm trying to process. It took a while for my wife and me to have any real conversation about the bruise on her neck. We were stuck between arguing and her showering our daughter and me with affection. I rarely saw the bruise because she was wearing turtlenecks, but I did note the healing process from reddish purple to yellow. There wasn't any more discussion about the Vegas retreat. She made it clear she was done talking about it and that she shouldn't need to defend herself to her husband. I told her she could do whatever she wanted, but I was done being treated like an idiot and I wasn't sharing a bed with someone I couldn't trust. So I moved into the guest room. Communication stopped and the silences were palpable. Even our daughter noticed. I'm not proud of that. I try to keep her out of our fights. My wife came to the guest room one night and asked if we could talk. I could tell she'd been crying. She said she hated the way things were between us and felt she was losing me either way. I told her I needed complete honesty. She confessed that she hooked up with that coworker on our daughter's birthday. The hickey was from him. She was lost in the heat of the moment and didn't realize he was sucking so hard on her neck. By her account, they made out while doing some on top of the clothes stuff, and then he went down on her. It stopped there because he called her by a nickname that I affectionately call her. It snapped her back to the reality of her actions. She went to splash water on her face and saw the hickey. The guy made light of it and made a joke about the hickey being her souvenir. She blew up on him and kicked him out of her suite. Part of the reason she was avoiding me was out of guilt. She said she's coming clean because she doesn't want to hide things anymore. I asked her why she cheated. What was it about that guy that she deemed worth risking everything? She claimed it wasn't him specifically, nor is she unhappy with our marriage. She doesn't really know how to explain it, but a part of her feels broken. The more she looks in the mirror, the more she sees her dad. A cycle of being consumed with work, distant from her child, and the infidelity he put her mom through. She said her family never talked about anything openly, and when she was growing up, my mother-in-law never addressed anything with her. I said her parents didn't make her cheat. She chose to party up with a guy who constantly disrespected our relationship. These were all her decisions, and she could have chosen our family at any point. She agreed. She wants to blame her parents, but realizes this is on her. She apologized for cheating and for entertaining the guy's advances. She said she'll do whatever it takes to repair our relationship. Go to HR, quit her job, attend counseling, anything. She wants to make everything right. I told her I don't know what right looks like or if that's possible for us anymore. I knew we had our problems, but I thought there wasn't anything we couldn't talk out. She insisted we still could talk it out. We didn't have to give up on us. She tried giving a rally cry for our relationship, but I felt very numb. I said I didn't recognize her, not just because of the betrayal of our vows, but also because of how she treated our daughter. She's like a stranger. She feels she failed as a wife and mom, but she loves us both beyond words and wants our life together and our family intact. I told her I couldn't give her the answer she wanted and thought we needed to separate and reevaluate. She didn't want separation. She felt we should stay together in our home, but I told her a separation was happening. Either she was leaving the home or I was with our daughter. She consented to leaving so as not to uproot our daughter too much. She asked for our daughter not to be taken away from her. My wife is staying with my in-laws. I know that's difficult in itself because she doesn't have the best relationship with her parents. One of the hardest parts is the shift for our daughter. Right now, she believes her mom is just busy with work as usual. She hasn't questioned it too much. My mother-in-law called the other day. She made no excuses for my wife, but she's advocating for us to work through it. She told me times when she heard my wife describe me as the anchor she always wanted. She believes there's something worth fighting for if I'm open. Despite some family opposition we faced throughout our relationship, my mother-in-law was always a supporter of us. I'm even more at a loss. I never imagined this kind of betrayal from my wife. She was my safe place. I feel numb yet broken. I'm still in love with her. That hasn't changed. But I don't see myself, her, our relationship, or our family the same. Everything's more tense because it's fresh. I think this period of separation is for the best. I'm not sure about divorce. I haven't let myself fully go there. I'm not set either way. I don't know where things go from here, but I'm focusing on our daughter and taking things one step at a time. I feel that's all I can do right now. Thanks again to everyone for the support. It's much appreciated. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video, and thank you also to partner of the channel, GamerSupps. Use code DLAM to support the channel and get 10% off of your purchase, link in the description. I'm sure many of you like me have a hankering for daily caffeine, so go check them out. Lately, I've been a big fan of Titty Milk and Acid Rain, but they've got dozens of other flavors for y'all to try out. Anyway, thanks again for reaching the end, and I hope you all have an amazing passage of the next 24 hours.